Thanks for coming today. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about Saturday's game, which I'll be glad to answer. But we have moved forward as a coaching staff, get a chance to meet with our team today at 2:15, talk about some things we need to correct, and then move on from a big opponent in Boise State at home, 8:30 p.m. This weekend. Boise State is a really, really good football team. They've been a good football team for a long, long time, and everybody wanted to say how much they were struggling and what was wrong with them this year. But all they did was continue to work and continue to win. I believe they've won 5 straight. Lost 2 games to Washington State and Virginia, 2 very good football teams. Washington State game had in control of the football game, had some turnovers late, and the game ended up going in the other direction. Virginia was a close game at halftime. After half, it kind of got away from them a little bit. But I think Coach Harsin and his staff has done an unbelievable job. His kids know how to play. His kids know how to win. And they've been doing that on a consistent basis. I think you start with them this year on the defensive side of the football. They're playing very, very sound defensively. I think they have a really, really good secondary, 2 cover corners that can cover. A safety in Pierce who will come up and make tackles in the box and has really good cover skills. We have a linebacker, Van Der Esch, 38, who I think he's a next-level player. It reminds me of the kid from Carolina Panthers and the way he plays the game, Kuechly. They got an active front. It does a lot of good things. They play sound. They play solid. They base more out of the 3-4 this year than they have in the past. They started to go to a lot of the 3-4 last year, but they're primarily out of 3-4 right now and do a really good job. Defensively, play great team defense. They're good on all 3 levels. Offensively, I think they're a good offensive football team. They know how to scheme you. They know how to formation and personnel you to get the answers that they want offensively, the numbers to run the ball. I think they've made gradually improvement offensively all year, and people are going to look at statistics and say they're not this, not that. They got a quarterback in Brett Whippen who's been Conference Player of the Year. I think he's playing exceptional the last few weeks. I think he's really got his confidence back. And then you add Cozart into the mix. That's a dual-threat guy that can run and throw. He'll be out there by himself. Him and Rippon will both be on the field. Poses a big challenge for us. They also do a really good job in the run game. As I mentioned, Madison is a big back. I think he's starting to get confidence. When you lose a guy like McNichols, like they did, it was a great player for them the last few years. This guy's kind of trying to feel his way. I think he's starting to come on and play really good. Number 88, the tight end, does everything for them. He lines up in the Wildcat. He plays tight end. He's H-back. He is a go-to guy that makes clutch plays, whether he's running it, catching it, or blocking. The receiver, Cedric Wilson's one of the best receivers in the conference and in this country, can stretch you vertically, can do things in the screen game, and has a very willingness to block. It's a good football team. It's a big challenge. Again, I think they're well coached. They play extremely well, and we're excited about the opportunity.
Mike, for the first time really this year, this is a must-win ball game to stay alive in the division. Is that urgency something that you expect to kind of fuel your team a little bit more?
Well, we don't control our destiny anymore as a football team. We were in control of our destiny. We are not in control of our destiny because we lost 2 games in a row. 2 teams beat us, and now, what we control is how we get ready for this game and this opportunity. We're playing a team that right now arguably is probably the best team in the conference. We're playing a team that, I believe if I say Colorado State has never beaten. Is that correct? Colorado State's never beaten this team. So we're going to take pride in getting ready, regrouping, coming together as a team, and getting a plan together and going out and playing our tails off this Saturday night.
The past 2 weeks in talking to you and players after the games, you suggested in some of your comments you're not executing at the same level you were earlier. Is that what you're seeing on film? And if so, what do you kind of attribute that to?
Just going back to this last game against Wyoming, the execution was there at times, and then at times you got to give credit to Wyoming. made some plays in one-on-one situations, and we didn't make them. I thought we were getting a hat on the right guy and at times and running the ball extremely well. But at times they got off blocks. At times they played off down blocks and rolled out of them. They did a good job on the zones, fighting to get across our face and letting the backside pursuit catch up. They just, and we were one-dimensional in the game. But both teams were one-dimensional in the game. You'd love to run up and down the field, every game. But I knew even before the weather that this was going to be a tough game because I think they're a very good defensive football team. And sometimes it's those games are like that, and you got to execute in the key moments, the third downs in the red zone, the chances that you have, to score points.
And I know not all penalties are considered equal, but is it a concern of yours that you are among the most penalized teams? And
yeah, it's you're right. All penalties are a little bit different, and sometimes you have penalties that you can overcome. We had a couple Saturday that we overcame, and then, when you're in tight ball games or, you feel like every drive is the drive that's going to be the difference, in the game. When you have penalties that take away big plays and put you behind the chains, it has cost us. We're able to get by with it against New Mexico, the penalty that called back a touchdown, but the Air Force game and the Wyoming game, Wyoming wasn't a touchdown called back, but it was a drive killer in our last drive right before the halftime. They gave them the ball back with 59 seconds, where I felt like we were in control of the game. We were running the ball, and we had a holding call on the backside, and it's one of those where the guy's really just matched up and he's running, and the guy falls down, and sometimes when the guy falls down, you get holding calls, and it's unfortunate, but we could not overcome 1st and 20, and they had to punt and gave them the ball back with 59 seconds.
Is there anything you do in practice to try to fix that?
Well, I mean, you gotta realize sometimes when a guy's going down that we don't need to try to avalanche him. Hands got to be in the proper spot. All those things. It's not like it wasn't blatant grab a guy because you were beaten. When we were fitting up on the zone backside and we're running our feet and he's running hard one way and we're running hard and he falls, and then we try to avalanche him, and sometimes we maybe need to come off of that.
Mike, when you just look at what you guys still have left to play for, that division title, I know mathematically there's a way, but it's pretty convoluted, pretty unlikely. How do you just kind of keep your team motivated to be playing moving forward, to try to keep progressing and be a better team this week than you were last week and next week than the week before?
You don't deviate from the plan. You stay consistent, with your message, with your plan, and your plan. You alter things at times, but you don't deviate from who you are and how you respond, whether it's success or failure. And it was a failure, last Saturday night. That one hurt. That one hurt probably more than anyone has hurt in 3 years, and they all hurt, but that one hurt. And we don't control our destiny, all right? And our goals are not in front of us, what we set at the beginning of the year. So we'll talk about that today. We don't control our destiny, all right? But what we do control is how we come back this week and play a team that's, one of the best teams in the conference at home. We're wearing state pride. We need to take pride in our football team, our performance, and who we represent. And that's how I'm going to approach it. You don't lay down. You don't quit when things don't go your way. And sometimes you work as hard as possible and make what you believe are the decisions that are going to help you get there, and the work and the preparation. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And that hurts. That doesn't guarantee it's going to happen, but you got to come back. You got to come back to work. You got to wake up. And we got to come together as a team, and we got to. My message will be to the players is that's what I expect this week. What's in front of us is Boise State. That's what's in front of us. And if we let this loss linger to Tuesday or Wednesday, then we won't be ready to play. We can come back and revisit this loss after the season, but right now we got to move forward toward Boise State.
You talked about some of the things about Boise State from schematics and other things, personnel. Just as a program, what are the reasons that, are they still the program that you think everybody in this conference is trying to emulate, trying to catch up to? And if so, what is it about their long-term success that's made them that way?
Well, I think they've they've won over a long period of time consistently, and found ways to win year in and year out. When the pieces aren't the same, when the coaches aren't the same, they know how to win. When they step on the field, they feel like they're going to win every game and find a way to win.
And you kind of touch on the timeliness of some of those mistakes. Is that kind of the biggest hurdle that kind of differentiates, good and conference title type teams?
You're going to have mistakes in every ball game. You're going to have them, and you're going to have things happen that don't go your way, and it's overcoming those mistakes. And then when you lose ball games, what do you point to? You point to those mistakes were the difference in winning or losing. We just weren't able to overcome those. So we overcome them and find a way to win the ball game. You're still correcting those mistakes and working on it, but you're more focused on why you didn't win. The ball game, was it this mistake? Was it that mistake? Was it this decision? Was it, things are going to happen within a ball game that you got to regroup. That holding call came in the first half. At the end of the day, we hold them, we punt. We got to hold them from getting a field goal and gaining a little momentum going into halftime, and it's 10-3. You got to execute a snap and a hold. You got to get more than one first down after a turnover. There's a lot of things that we could have done to overcome, that penalty, that holding call.
Most people don't
Creating
believe
a turnover, was something we did, and we didn't capitalize with it.
Most people believe a two-quarterback system can't work, but like you pointed out, Boise State's gotten better on offense. What has struck you about the way that they've used the two quarterbacks and found success?
Well, it's not just a guy coming in and, doing a wildcat package, or, he's running the offense. Obviously, things are suited to his talents a little bit more. What strikes me, because you get a chance to watch Boise a lot because they play on, Friday nights, and we're in the hotel a lot of time, is just, and then you read their comments and watch their interviews, and these two kids really seem like great kids, and they're team players. And even when everybody was questioning, they didn't question. They had belief in their coach, that this is going to work. We're going to make it work because we're all in and we believe in what we're doing. And I think that's a great example of why they continue to do what they do, is that, they've got a bunch of guys that are all in, for doing it the Boise way, I guess is a better way to say it. But I just watch their demeanor. I watch how they, are cheering for each other, how they talk to each other between series. And that can't be easy for anybody. Here's Brett Rippon, starter for 2 years, right? It's his third year. Yep. Starter, and then here comes a graduate transfer, and they've made it work. They've meshed it up. Everybody wants to say what's wrong, and, they lost to a Washington State team that's pretty damn good and a Virginia team that's pretty good. That's their two losses. Other than that, they've been rolling and finding ways to win. And they didn't, we don't beat, they found a way they beat Wyoming, which was a close game. Wyoming was a daggone good football team, and they found a way to win that game, and they just find ways to win. Everybody expects everybody to beat everybody by 30 points sometimes, and the bottom line is winning ball games.
I've seen them rotate series. I've seen them rotate plays. I've seen them on the field at the same time. In terms of prepping for that offense, what is the most difficult challenge?
Well, I think the most difficult challenge is for everything that Boise will give you offensively as far as formations and personnel groups, and especially early in a game. You are going to see every formation, known to man, and they're going to move to that formation. And I'm not just talking about traditional formations. You'll see unbalance. You'll see, you'll see all kind of. You'll see tackle unbalance. You'll be seeing tight ends moving, coming back. So it's making your calls and getting lined up. And what it forces a lot of people to do is play field defense, which that means you're setting your strengths to the field, all right, and then a lineup off their formation. Instead some people make formation checks on how they're going to line up the defense, and some people will have to go field defense. A lot of people go field defense when teams are playing really, really fast, because, all right, we're going to make the call to the field no matter what, and we're going to line up. This team, you have to make some field calls because of all the movement that they do. And then during all that, in the first 15 plays, it's going to be a trick play every game. I thought it was like play 14 for a while because I watch them all the time, and then I was off after a game or two. But it's coming early, unless they get off schedule. They get off schedule like we all do, then you're playing kind of goes haywire as a play caller. But if they stay on schedule, you're going to get some kind of trick play early on.
But do the two quarterbacks alter that at all, or is it just another factor?
I think it's just another. I think it's another factor. I think it's another factor, and that they're out there. You got to be aware that they're both out there, and there's some tendencies when both are out there, and then when Cozart's in there and Rippin's in there. So that's something we have to be aware of as a defense. Okay, here's Rippin. Here are their tendencies with number 4. Here's 3. Here's their tendencies with number 3. Okay, here's both of them. Here's their tendencies. Now, that's something more that you have to think about defensively. And now you've got all these motions, you've got all these shifts, and all these different personnel groups. All right, usually focus on that. Now you got to focus on who's the quarterback. All right, is it Cozart? Is it Rippin? Or is it both? And that's what you want to do as an offensive coach, is you want to have guys having to think, having to move, and then if they're moving or thinking, they're not playing as fast as they need to play, and then you have the advantage offensively. What impresses me about Coach Harsin and their staff, they're able to do all this stuff, and then still usually 90% of the time they're going to get a hat on the hat. Sometimes when you do all this stuff, you end up confusing yourself offensively. They do a great job of doing this and still being on the same page as a whole unit offensively. Line, tight ends, and backs are tied together.
Is some of what they do with the two quarterbacks a little bit of what you tried to do your first 2 years here? You had C.J. Leonard do it a little bit. Your first year, you had Fatone last year, kind of that mix-it-up quarterback?
Yeah, a little bit, not to the degree that they do. Those two guys were probably more of a wildcat. We tried to do some of the quarterback power stuff, and it wasn't, those guys, their package was a lot smaller than Cozart's package. Cozart can do some of the things that, that Josh Allen does in the run game. Well, they don't ask Rippin to do that. It'll be more zones and, a little bit of read backside, but mostly he's protected backside and with tight ends and stuff. He's not, and they do play action pass off of that stuff, and then they'll do the same thing with 3, but then they'll add the run game to it with the quarterback powers and counters and stuff.
With this Boise offense, very disciplined also. They haven't turned the ball over in almost a month now. Knowing that they're not going to beat themselves, does that affect your defensive game plan and preparation at all?
No, we got to, the bottom line is try to get stops. They do a great job protecting the ball, and when you protect the ball, it usually gives you a greater percentage chance of winning the ball game. And then they play really strong defense, really strong in the special team game. They're a complete football team. And when you don't turn the ball offensive, then you play the defense that they've been playing. It increases your chances of winning. They're not going to. We're going to have to do things offensively to try to to create momentum. We can't turn the ball over and give them a short field, but maybe they're due to turn one over. I don't know.
You talked about this being the Wyoming loss being the most disappointing loss personally to you in the 3 years. Was it disappointment because you thought you were so close to being where you wanted to be, or is it just the implications of that game? Because as you said, every game is going to come down to a few plays.
I think it's a lot of things. It's a very important game to our football program, our fan base. It's where you are and what you want to accomplish within the season, and your goals are still in reach. It's you didn't just get whipped. It was your kids played their heart out and played their guts out in a classic game. You came out there at halftime and that snow's coming down, and I'm like, I ain't never played in snow. This is going to be pretty fun, and it was a fun game. And it was both teams, playing their hearts out, and they made more plays. That quarterback put their team on his back there at the end of the game, and what an unbelievable catch by that fullback. It was just. They made the plays at the right time, and we didn't. And you got to take their hats off to them. And and it's hard to do when that's your rival. But they won the ball game, and I was hurting for our kids, and hurting for how I thought we had a great week of practice. I thought we'd come ready to respond, and then it didn't come to fruition. But just because you work hard and have a great week of practice doesn't mean it's going to happen on Saturday. And that's. The real world, that's what you got to stand back up and you got to go to work, and you got to get ready to play. You got to get ready to play this football team. who is as talented and as confident as any team will play.
A couple of your players had mentioned it was the first time they played in snow. Are you saying that was the first time you coached in snow?
Oh, yeah.
What did you learn about that? Because we always talk about what experiences the players gain. What about you as a coach?
Well, I think it turned into a little bit of an inside drill, for both teams. Both teams still try to do some of their stuff, but the vision was hard. I was worried about any time we had to punt or catch a punt. I looking up during the game, you couldn't hardly see anything, so the vision was a little bit difficult. The footing was difficult. You could see guys they're trying to play a little bit, more under control. But I think it turned into one of those games. It was going to be inside drill, and it was going to be a field position game, is what it was. And we were able to flip the field a couple times. You wish you could have got a couple more points on the board, or execute a field goal or something like that. But it was one of those games that was going to be a fourth quarter game, going to be a field position game. It was going to be hard for anybody to score, really, in those situations. For a whole 2 quarters, nobody really, each team had a couple plays, but then, they weren't able to finish except for their one drive, where they finished, where a kid made an unbelievable individual play. That wasn't just, that guy's, he's like this, horizontal to the ground and makes that catch. And then the next play, they run a one-back power and we get a face mask, added to a 15-yard run. In 2 plays, they're down there, but still it was, right there is where they didn't score earlier. We hadn't scored when we had flipped the field. They were able to finish that drive right there, and get 7, and 7 was the difference.
Do you go back as a coach and rethink the decisions you make and wonder if you try and do this just because it was your first time?
Yeah, well, you think about your decisions in every game, and about situations and how what should have done it or would have done it differently. But at the end of the day, you're in a moment and you're prepared and what you think you ought to do and how the game's going. And just to be honest, one situation, 4th and 5, right there on the 35, 36 yard line. My decision when I went up there to the line was we were going to freeze the play, which means, try to get them to jump off sides, and I was going to, take a delay, all right, and pooch it, and then they lined up in the front I wanted, and I ran the run. Because at the end of the day, you're still going to have to go 70 yards in a snowstorm, and if we pooch it, or if we have to be a great pooch, we might gain 10 yards. We might do a perfect pooch, or we just gain 10 yards right there. That would be one. Should I made them go 80 or 85 instead of 70? Hindsight, when we don't get it, it's like, well, hell, I should have done something different. But that was what my gut was telling me right then. If we get this first down, we got a chance to get in field goal range and win this ball game or get a touchdown,
When you look at it, obviously your team's they were very disappointed after the game. You were too. One of the things you wanted to do when you got here was change the perception of the program, win titles. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's part of the disappointment is that you took the first step, raised some expectations, and then on the back end, is this not a perfect game to beat a team that you've never beaten before and kind of go back the other way that you thought you were headed?
Well, we're not going to lower our standards and expectations will not change. All right, they won't change, and that's where they should be. Not because we built this stadium or this facility. That's where they should be. It's where every program should be. I don't know why you don't do it if you don't want to be the damn best in the country. And we don't control our destiny right now, but we got a chance to play as a football team and compete. The other thing I talked about when I've been here is I want competitors, and I don't care what I'm doing, who I'm playing, or what it stands for. I'm gonna be ready to play this week, and I expect my team to be ready.
Mike, when you look at Boise State's program and what they've done, where they are, where your program is, where Colorado State is there a big gap, or do you feel like it's pretty close as far as to be that type of program?
Well, we got to be able to finish the season. We got to be able to finish a game. We got to learn how to win when things aren't going the best for us as a football team. When we're not clicking on all cylinders, or the other team is making some plays and making it difficult, or we make some mistakes, whether it's turnover or penalty, and that's finding a way to win. That's becoming the program you want, is finding a way to win in tough tough conditions, whether it's weather, whether it's weather, whether it's turnovers, whether it's the team is you're playing a team that you don't match up with great. I mean, there's a lot of factors, but you find a way to win, and you're going to have those games within a season, to win a championship, and that's what we're still searching to do. We got to find a way to get over the hump. Great opportunity this week, playing a team we've never beaten before. That is one of the best teams in this conference, one of the better teams in the country. Opportunity to try to, maybe get us over the hump, but we can't just show up and expect it to happen. We're gonna have to win it within the game. That's what we got to do.